Chapter 1993. Hearing Tian Shang's words, Ji Tianqing immediately raised his eyebrows and revealed a mocking expression. Oh? So courageous? Then you'll have to change your name. You can write it backwards from now on. However, you're already a dead man, so your name isn't important anymore. As he spoke, Ji Tianqing raised his fists and punched at Heaven Slayer. Star-shattering fist. Silver star divine fire burst out of his fists, forming two massive fist auras that streaked across the night sky like meteors. Heaven Slayer didn't dare to be careless. He immediately counterattacked. Both of his hands formed hand seals and waved rapidly, forming a profound seal. Indefinite divine spear. He roared angrily and pointed his sword fingers 3 times, shooting out 6 dark golden beams of light towards Ji Tianqing. Each dark golden light formed a golden spear shadow that was hundreds of feet long. They stabbed toward Ji Tianqing's vital points. The shadow of the spear was constantly changing, making it hard for one to grasp and dodge. The biggest characteristic of Heaven Slayer's secret technique was that it was unpredictable and impossible to guard against. Ji Tianqing released his divine sense to determine the trajectory of the spear shadows. However, he couldn't do it at all. He immediately realized the essence of this secret technique. Thus, he decisively unfolded his battle robe. Swoosh! Golden light flashed behind him, and a pair of wide golden wings appeared. Golden rock wings. The golden wings instantly closed and wrapped around him, protecting him. The 6 spear shadows hit the golden wings one after another. Boom! 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 Instantly, the spear shadows shattered into countless golden fragments that scattered in the night sky. The golden rock wings were undamaged. Ji Tianqing wasn't hurt. However, the incomparably powerful force of impact sent him flying 1,000 meters away. Heaven Slayer didn't let him go. He roared and chased after him. Aurora instant kill. He roared angrily and formed hand seals with both hands. He activated 100% of his power and formed a blazing white sword that was hundreds of feet long. Kill. Following his shout, the blazing white sword of light that was hundreds of meters long pierced towards Ji Tianqing with a divine might that seemed capable of piercing through everything. At the same time, Ji Tianqing had just retracted his golden rock wings. Seeing the blazing white light sword coming at him, he furrowed his brows and raised his left palm without hesitation, using his trump card. God-slaying spear. Golden divine flames gushed out of his left palm and condensed into a golden divine spear that was 100 feet long. The golden divine spear stabbed toward the sword of light. In the blink of an eye, the god-slaying spear and the blazing white light sword collided, causing an earth-shattering explosion. Boom! In that instant, the white light shattered and rose into the air like a mushroom cloud. The wasteland within a radius of a few dozen kilometers was instantly illuminated by the white light. A violent shockwave swept across the entire wasteland. Even Qin Haishan was unable to withstand it and was blasted back 1,000 feet. The weaker purple-robed experts were sent flying, each of them spitting out blood. A few of those who were closer to the scene were seriously injured and covered in blood. Ji Tianqing was still standing where he was. He did not move an inch and was not injured at all. However, Tian Slaying was hit by the god-slaying spear. A bloody hole appeared in his left arm, and he let out a painful groan. He was sent flying for more than 12 kilometers and fell at the end of the wasteland. He struggled to get up, his hair disheveled. He was in a sorry state. Damn bastard! How is this possible? How could he possibly hurt me? Tian Slaying's eyes were red with anger. He could not accept his failure as he growled in disbelief. When he looked up at Ji Tianqing again, his face was contorted. His expression was ferocious as he roared, "Everyone, attack together. Today, we will not stop until we tear him into pieces." Qin Haishan and the other 11 purple-robed experts immediately acknowledged the order. They did not care about their own injuries. They waved their swords and Dharma treasures wildly and released earth-shattering Dharma spells to attack Ji Tianqing from all directions. Swish, swish, swish. The earth-shattering Dharma spells lit up the entire wasteland. Violent and devastating magic power fluctuations surged in the wasteland. Ji Tianqing was surrounded, but he was calm. He made a spell with his left hand and held the sword of burial of heaven with his right hand. He started his counterattack. 7 stars sword. 5-colored divine thunder. He waved his sword with his right hand and shot out 49 rays of sword light to destroy the Dharma spells. He waved his left hand and shot out 5-colored lightning toward the purple-robed experts. Bang! 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 The attacks of the 11 purple-robed experts were all defeated on the spot. 4 of them were enveloped by the 5-colored lightning. With a series of crackling sounds, the 4 of them were scorched by the lightning. They twitched in pain. Such a tragic scene did not scare Qin Haishan and the others away. Instead, it aroused their ferocity. Qin Haishan roared. He held his broad sword with both hands and charged toward Ji Tianqing without caring about anything else. The purple-robed experts followed closely behind. They formed a battle formation and attacked Ji Tianqing from all sides. Ji Tianqing summoned a pair of mother-child shuttles. He cast a spell and activated the power of the shuttles to attack Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was fighting with Qin Haishan and the others. Suddenly, an extremely dangerous aura came from behind him. A wisp of cold silver light silently attacked and stabbed towards the back of his head. Whoosh! Ji Tianqing sensed the danger and immediately slashed behind him. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. The sword of burial of heaven blocked the cold light accurately. The cold light was sent flying, but it split into 2 rays of cold light. A larger ray of cold light flew to the left. The smaller ray of cold light brushed past Ji Tianqing's arm and flew to the right. Instantly, the white robe on his arm was torn. A bloody mark was left on his skin, and a few drops of blood seeped out. Damn you, despicable person! Mother-child shuttles. Ji Tianqing looked down at his arm, then turned to look at heaven slaying and cursed coldly. Broken moon sword. He was completely enraged. Killing intent burst out of his body as he slashed at Qin Haishan and the others. With a loud boom, the 3 purple-robed experts were hit by the sword light and were cut in half. Ji Tianqing broke through the encirclement and charged at Heaven Slaying with his sword. Heaven Slaying also came forward, holding a crescent-shaped saber and fighting him head-on. The 2 figures immediately intertwined and clashed fiercely. Qin Haishan and the other purple-robed experts assisted Heaven Slaying in battle, occasionally releasing Dharma spells to attack. Everyone was fighting fiercely and used their full strength. No one noticed that in a corner of the wasteland. In the darkness, a pair of scarlet eyes were staring at the battle in the sky. Below it was the corpse of a purple-robed expert. It was already in tatters, and its flesh and blood had dried up. And this pitch-black monster's wrist was recovering at a visible rate, growing a pair of sharp claws. Soon, another purple-robed expert was knocked unconscious by Ji Tianqing and fell to the edge of the wasteland. The pitch-black monster hurriedly flew over, silently picked up the purple-robed expert, and hid in the darkness at the end of the wasteland. Chapter 1994. 15 minutes passed by very quickly. Ji Tianqing and Heavenly Slayer exchanged more than 1,000 moves before the victor was finally decided. Heavenly Slayer's crescent blade was already cut in 2 and fell into the wasteland. He was covered in blood all over, his grayish-white long robe also turned dark red. His head of long hair was disheveled, appearing very wretched. His 4 limbs, chest, and back were all covered in horrifying wounds, deep to the bone. His left leg, in particular, had been cut off from below the knee and was bleeding profusely. These were just physical injuries. Although they were serious, they were not fatal. What truly reduced his combat strength was the injuries to his divine soul. His divine soul suffered heavy injuries repeatedly, and his consciousness was already blurry. On the other hand, Ji Tianqing's situation was clearly much more relaxed. His long hair draped over his shoulders, his white robe was dyed with blood. Several wounds were left on his arms and chest. Apart from this, there were no other injuries on his body. His divine soul was still clear, his strength surging. During the process of the two people fighting, Qin Haishan and the purple-robed powerhouses surrounded and attacked Ji Tianqing without regard for their own safety. However, those purple-robed powerhouses were either injured by the aftershocks of the battle and blasted far away, or they were killed by Ji Tianqing, dying on the spot. Fighting until now, the 12 purple-robed powerhouses were all dead. Only Qin Haishan was still bitterly hanging on, fighting side by side with Heavenly Slayer. Qin Haishan's injuries were even more miserable. He was already a bloody man, his body contorted out of shape. He retreated to Heavenly Slayer's side and asked with a voice transmission while panting, "Lord Heavenly Slayer, what do we do now? This kid's strength far exceeds our imagination. Why don't we temporarily avoid the spearhead and have a decisive battle with him after our injuries are treated?" Very clearly, Qin Haishan already had thoughts of retreating and did not wish to continue fighting. He was very clear that he and Heavenly Slayer were not Ji Tianqing's match. Continuing to fight, he would die without a doubt. But he could not say escape directly and could only say it more tactfully. Heavenly Slayer naturally understood what he meant. Glaring at him with a belly full of anger, he scolded in a deep voice, "Qin Haishan, you blind bastard. After we leave the mystic realm, this seat will settle the score with you." Tian Shang didn't want to be entangled any further and wanted to escape from the divine pagoda as soon as possible. However, what angered him the most was that Qin Haishan had lied about military intelligence. It was because of Qin Haishan's report that he had misjudged Ji Tianqing's strength. That was why he had ended up in such a miserable state. He felt that he had been cheated by Qin Haishan, so of course he was full of resentment. Qin Haishan knew what Heavenly Slayer was thinking, but he couldn't voice his bitterness. He could only cup his hands and say respectfully, "Lord Tian Shang, it's my fault. As long as I can leave this secret realm, I'm willing to accept any punishment." Tian Slayer looked at the Golden Crow ancient tomb not far away and instructed Qin Haishan, "Qin Haishan, you go entangle that kid and try your best to stall for time. I need to activate the array formation of the tomb before I can leave this place." Qin Haishan's expression immediately changed drastically, and he hurriedly shook his head and said, "Lord Heavenly Slayer, that won't do. This subordinate's strength is weak, how can I hold that brat back? In my opinion, only you, my lord, can hold that kid back. As long as you can stall for time, this subordinate can open the array formation." Qin Haishan was not stupid. He clearly knew that Tian Slayer wanted him to throw his life away, so how could he agree? Tian Slayer immediately glared at him and shouted sternly in a low voice, "Qin Haishan, this is my order. There's no room for negotiation. You actually dare to disobey? You know the consequences." As he said that, he emitted a cold killing intent all over his body, pressing towards Qin Haishan. Qin Haishan's body trembled, his expression becoming very ugly. His eyes also revealed a look of despair. He understood Tian Slayer's nature and methods. He was also a vicious and merciless character who killed without batting an eyelid. If he disobeyed, Tian Slayer would immediately execute the alliance rules and kill him on the spot. But if he obeyed, he would lose his life in Ji Tianqing's hands. It was death left and right. Qin Haishan weighed the pros and cons and simply steeled his heart, making up his mind. He looked at Tian Slayer with a determined gaze and said righteously, "Lord Tian Slayer, it's not that this subordinate is disobeying orders, but this is really inappropriate. I still think that the best decision is for you to stall for time while I activate the array. Obviously, Qin Haishan's fear of Ji Tianqing was far greater than his respect for Tian Slayer. He would rather suffer Tian Slayer's anger than fight with Ji Tianqing. Tian Slayer was so angry that his face turned pale. His eyes turned dark red like blood and his entire body was engulfed in raging flames. Qin Haishan. You rebellious, disobedient, cowardly coward. I will kill you according to the alliance rules now. As he roared, Tian Slayer raised his right palm and accumulated a vast amount of dermic power. He was about to kill Qin Haishan with one strike. Qin Haishan hurriedly retreated and retorted mockingly, I'm a coward? You're a patrol, a martial sage expert, but you don't dare to fight with a strong enemy. Instead, you want me to die. Ask yourself, who's the coward who's afraid of death? Since they had already shed all pretenses of cordiality, Qin Haishan did not hide it anymore. He might as well make things clear and not give Tian Slayer any face. Tian Slayer flew into a rage out of humiliation. He was so furious that his entire body emitted a strong killing intent. Qin Haishan, you traitor! I'll kill you now and clean up the mess. As soon as he finished speaking, Tian Slayer struck out with his right palm toward Qin Haishan. Qin Haishan was already prepared. He turned and fled without hesitation. Boom! A golden palm the size of a house streaked across the night sky and struck Qin Haishan. Qin Haishan's dermic power shield collapsed immediately. The jade pendant around his neck shattered with a bang. He was sent flying, blood spurting out of his mouth and nose. However, he managed to preserve his life with the protection of the jade pendant. After he landed, he hurriedly got up and continued flying toward the Golden Crow's ancient tomb. Tian Slayer chased after him with a murderous aura. He had only flown halfway when he was stopped by 2 rays of sword light. A mocking sneer sounded from the night sky beside him. Huh, you can't beat me, so you're starting an internal conflict? Tian Slayer turned his head and saw Ji Tianqing charging toward him with a sword in hand. His face was full of contempt. Tian Slayer was infuriated. He roared at the top of his lungs, little bastard, don't be so arrogant. As he spoke, he struck out with his fist toward the 2 rays of sword light. Bang! Bang! With 2 muffled explosions, the fist shadows collapsed. However, the sword light's power did not decrease. It continued to attack. Tian Slayer could only try his best to dodge. Swoosh! The sword light brushed past his shoulder and cut off his right palm. Ah! Tian Slayer let out a painful cry. The veins on his forehead bulged. At this moment, Ji Tianqing struck again with his sword and struck out a 5-colored lightning bolt. Tian Slayer did not have time to dodge at all. He was immediately struck by the 5-colored lightning bolt. Boom! Crack! With a thunderous boom, Heavenly Slayer's body exploded into charcoal fragments that filled the sky. Chapter 1995. A ball of white fog the size of a fist floated in the night sky. It was Tian Shang's soul. The life force of a martial saint was unimaginably strong. Ji Tianqing had exchanged over 1,000 blows with Tian Shang. He had used all his trump cards before he managed to destroy Tian Shang's physical body. Even though Tian Shang's soul was heavily injured, it was not so easy to kill him. Heaven-breaking sword. Ji Tianqing chased after him. He slashed out a huge golden sword towards Tian Shang's soul. Tian Shang suddenly woke up. He immediately turned into a ray of white light and fled into the distance. Whoosh! The huge golden sword chased after him. It cut through the dark night sky and only hit him when it reached the end of the wasteland. Boom! With a muffled sound, the sword light hit Tian Shang's soul. The ball of white fog distorted and flew thousands of feet away in the night sky. It then turned around and flew in the other direction. At the same time, the white fog released invisible soul ripples. They turned into 4 sharp spikes and attacked Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was already prepared. He activated his soul power and formed 4 sharp swords to fight back. Bang! 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 4 muffled sounds exploded in the soul. Tian Shang's soul attack was dispelled. He took the opportunity to flee 5 kilometers away. Ji Tianqing did not give up. He held the Burial of Heaven sword and chased after him. They chased each other in the night sky. In 15 minutes, they had circled the wasteland several times. Finally, Tian Shang's soul was too heavily injured. He could no longer bear the burden. When Ji Tianqing performed the soul-slashing sword technique and slashed out 18 sword lights, Tian Shang's soul was finally cut into pieces and scattered in the night sky. The inspector of the Heaven-Breaking Alliance, a martial saint expert, had died just like that. Ji Tianqing had created another miracle by killing a martial saint with his strength at the 8th stage of the tribulation-passing realm. However, this miracle was only known to him and the Burial of Heaven. It was destined not to spread. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and shot out a beam of golden light, picking up Heavenly Slayer's soul fragment. The voice of the Burial of Heaven immediately sounded in his mind. The soul fragments of a martial saint expert are great nourishment. They can help me recover a lot of my strength. Ji Tianqing didn't hesitate and directly gave the divine soul fragment to the Burial of Heaven to devour. Then, he held the sword of Burial of Heaven and flew towards the Golden Crow tomb in the middle of the wasteland. At this moment, Qin Haishan was above the Golden Crow's tomb, casting his technique anxiously. After a full quarter of an hour, he still couldn't open the array even after using all his strength. Seeing Tian Shang being killed with his own eyes, he was so worried that his soul almost left his body. When he saw Ji Tianqing rushing over, he became even more flustered. His eyes were filled with despair. Shua! In the next moment, Ji Tianqing arrived behind Qin Haishan and stopped in the night sky. He looked at Qin Haishan expressionlessly and said coldly, "Qin Haishan, your death is here. There's no need to struggle anymore." Qin Haishan's body stiffened and his expression turned ashen. He was filled with despair, grief, and anger. He slowly turned to look at Ji Tianqing and shook his head. "Senior, you can't blame me for this. I respect you greatly and wouldn't dare to disobey you in the slightest. It's all Heavenly Slayer's fault. He wanted to kill you. I was ordered by him." Since Heavenly Slayer was already dead, Qin Haishan didn't hesitate to twist the truth to save his life. However, Ji Tianqing didn't believe his nonsense. He laughed coldly. "Huh, do you think I'll believe you? Do you think I'm a merciful person?" Qin Haishan was even more shocked and shocked. The despair in his heart was even greater. He was so anxious that his eyes darted around, anxiously thinking of a way to save his life. However, after racking his brain for a long time, he realized that he didn't have any life-saving trump cards. What was even more tragic was that he was about to die, but he didn't even know the other party's identity and background. Helpless, he could only bring up the heaven-shattering alliance. "Senior, don't forget that you're friends with our alliance master. As long as you spare my life, our alliance will definitely remember this kindness." Ji Tianqing's lips curled into a cold smile. He said disdainfully, "Now you admit that Wu Duantian and I are friends? That's not what you said before. You're just a small branch leader. Don't think too highly of yourself. Furthermore, I've never put the heaven-shattering alliance in my eyes. Wu Duantian isn't worthy of being my friend." Since he said that, Qin Haishan also understood that he was completely hopeless. His heart was like dead ashes. He glared at Ji Tianqing with a ferocious gaze and laughed maniacally. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha, kid, I admit that you're very strong, but you're too arrogant. Even if you don't put the heaven-shattering alliance in your eyes, you've killed me in Tianshang. You'll have to suffer the heaven-shattering alliance's revenge. We've already sent out a message to inform the elders of the heaven-shattering alliance about you. Just you wait, the elders will avenge us very soon. You won't live long either. Soon, you'll be buried with us. Qin Haishan laughed maniacally. At the same time, he channeled all his magic power and soul to self-destruct. He was an expert at the 8th stage of the tribulation stage. Once he self-destructed, it would definitely destroy everything within a few hundred miles. The 3rd floor of the Divine Pagoda was only a few dozen miles in radius. Ji Tianqing had nowhere to hide. Ha ha ha. Little bastard, let's die together. Qin Haishan laughed maniacally. His body ignited with 5-colored flames and expanded violently. Seeing that he was about to self-destruct, Ji Tianqing didn't retreat. Instead, he rushed forward like a stream of light. Want to self-destruct in front of me? Too young. Ji Tianqing sneered disdainfully. He stretched out 2 fingers of his right hand and poked at Qin Haishan. Sky-piercing finger. The 2 fingertips emitted a dazzling golden light. It formed a sharp sword and instantly pierced Qin Haishan. Bang! The violently expanding Qin Haishan was like a balloon. He was instantly pierced by the sky-piercing finger. With a loud explosion, his body collapsed on the spot. It exploded into pieces and scattered in all directions. A violent 5-colored air wave wrapped around the pieces of flesh and swept across a few dozen miles. The hurricane filled the entire wasteland. It blew up gravel and dust. Qin Haishan's physical body and soul were completely destroyed. They turned into fine powder and scattered in the wasteland. Although he still exploded, it wasn't a self-destruction. The power was completely different. Ji Tianqing was swept by the shockwave. He was also unharmed. When the violent hurricane calmed down, the entire wasteland regained its peace. Originally, Ji Tianqing should have sat down and adjusted his breathing after killing all the people of the heaven-shattering alliance. However, he didn't stop. He turned and flew to a corner of the wasteland. He shouted with a cold expression. Ji Xiaolua, you coward! How long are you going to hide? He stared at the corner of the wasteland with a sharp gaze. His body was filled with a strong murderous intent. In the corner of the wasteland, there was a pile of broken bones. The ground was stained with blood. Chapter 1996. This pitch-black monster covered in scales was Ji Xiaolua. It had been hiding in the rubble for a long time and witnessed the battle between Ji Tianqing and Tianchang and the others. Beneath it, the ground was littered with bones and chunks of flesh, enough to form 7 corpses. Without a doubt, 7 of the 12 elites of the heaven-shattering alliance had been killed by it. The souls and blood essences of these 7 experts were also completely devoured by it. A pair of sharp claws grew out of its broken wrist. They were as black and sharp as before. Hearing Ji Tianqing's words, Ji Xiaolua's eyes were filled with murderous intent. It stopped hiding its aura and crawled out from the rubble. Whoosh! With a flash of blood, Ji Xiaolua flew into the night sky and stood 5 kilometers away from Ji Tianqing. It stared at Ji Tianqing ferociously and sneered, "Ha, I didn't think that not only did you chase me here, you even discovered me long ago. However, this is the worst decision you've made in your life, and you're about to regret it." Ji Tianqing curled his lips and sneered disdainfully, "You're the one who's going to regret it. The stupidest decision you've made in your life was to enter this divine tower. Because this is where you're going to be buried." Ji Xiaolua stood proudly and exuded a powerful and domineering aura. Ha ha ha. What a joke. Ji Tianqing, with your current state, how could you have the courage to speak such nonsense? You fought with the heaven-shattering alliance's martial saint and are heavily injured, and your strength has dropped by half. Meanwhile, I've recovered 80% of my strength, so killing you is as easy as pie. Ji Tianqing disdained to argue with it. With his left hand behind his back and his right hand holding the burial of heaven, he pointed it at the ground and said proudly, Ji Xiaolua, there's no point in talking anymore. Hand over your life. As soon as he finished speaking, he channeled his vast magic power and released a vast amount of divine lightning, slashing with all his might. The path of martial arts is endless, but the path of the sword is eternal. With just one sword, I defeated all the geniuses of the myriad worlds and killed all those who betrayed me. My sword can split the heavens and earth, change the sun and moon, and kill the gods. Godslayer sword. Even though Ji Tianqing had fought a great battle, his mana was still vigorous and his battle prowess was outstanding. He was full of vigor as he spoke these overbearing words in a clear and loud voice. Every time he spoke, his aura would double, and his sword intent would become more condensed. When the words God-slaying sword came out of his mouth, his aura reached its peak, and his sword intent took form. The sword of burial of heaven slashed out a 1,000-meter-long giant sword with dazzling white light. Along with a sky full of sword shadows, it slashed down from the sky towards Ji Xiaolua. This sword technique was the 8th move of the burial of heaven's 9 swords, God-slaying sword. And the sky full of golden and red sword shadows was Ji Tianqing's sword intent. It represented absolute majesty and dominance, as well as the courage to press forward with indomitable will. Today, Ji Tianqing had finally mastered the sword intent that he had comprehended for many years. Swoosh! The god-slaying sword fell from the sky, and the wilderness was in chaos. The ground cracked, and dust flew up into the sky. Ji Xiaolua endured the suppression of the sword intent. His body trembled violently, and his face was distorted. He immediately widened his eyes, revealing a look of horror. He exclaimed in disbelief, sword intent. The fusion of will and sword technique. Only a sword sage can master sword intent. You're so young. How could you have comprehended such a powerful sword intent? You and that person from 1,000 years ago. Seeing Ji Tianqing in high spirits and the god-slaying sword's invincible power, Ji Xiaolua immediately thought of that sword Dao legend from 1,000 years ago. Ji Xiaolua had never seen that sword Dao legend with his own eyes. But he was sure that the sword Dao legend from back then was nothing more than this. At this critical moment, Ji Xiaolua did not dare to think too deeply. He hurriedly used a secret technique to block the power of the god-slaying sword. Heavenly demon protection. He shouted in a low voice. His claws formed a strange posture, and his body surged with demonic aura. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, a pitch-black shield formed and protected him. The shield flashed with a cold light, and 6 ferocious heavenly demon shadows flashed. This was the demon race's saint-level secret technique, one of their strongest defensive techniques. In the next moment, the god-slaying sword fell from the sky and struck the black shield. Bam! With a deafening sound, the black shield collapsed on the spot, and more than 10 cracks appeared. Crack! The black shield could not withstand the destructive blow. It shattered into billowing black fog and scattered in the wilderness. Ji Xiaolua was also cut down. He fell from the sky and crashed into the wilderness, creating a huge crater in the ground and sending countless rocks flying. He struggled for a while, but before he could get up, he opened his mouth and spat out black blood, mixed with countless pieces of his internal organs. Clearly, the god-slaying sword's tyrannical slash through the shield caused him to suffer a backlash. His internal organs and blood vessels were shattered inch by inch. From his chest and abdomen, he felt as if he was being stabbed by knives and needles. Ji Xiaolua's body bent over as he let out a painful groan. He hurriedly circulated his energy to suppress his injuries. He flapped his wings and flew out of the crater. However, before he could fly back into the night sky, Ji Tianqing descended from the sky and attacked again. White Tiger Sacred Sword. The sword of burial of heaven became a giant sword thousands of feet tall. Ji Tianqing's body also surged with golden light, and he became one with the giant sword. The giant sword fell from the sky, bringing with it the image of a white tiger as huge as a mountain. It came crashing down like a meteor. Ji Xiaolua looked up at the sky and saw the white tiger sacred sword coming down. It was too late for him to dodge. His scarlet eyes were filled with anger and unwillingness. At the critical moment of life and death, he could only fold his black wings to protect his vitals. Boom! Crack! In the next moment, the white tiger sacred sword struck him, and a thunderous sound rang out. Golden light burst forth, and black fog drifted away. Another crater with a radius of more than 10 miles appeared in the wilderness. Dust flew everywhere. Ji Xiaolua's black wings were cut off on the spot. They shattered into several pieces and scattered in the crater. It had become a naked black monster, covered in wounds and blood, roaring furiously. Ji Tianqing did not stop. He took advantage of the situation and launched a fierce attack. He used all his strength to use his ultimate techniques, wanting to kill Ji Xiaolua. Vermilion Bird Sacred Sword. Azure Dragon Sacred Sword. Heaven-Splitting Sword. Five-Colored Divine Lightning. The two of them fought fiercely in the wilderness. It was an extremely fierce battle. Ji Tianqing constantly let out low roars and used all kinds of trump cards. Ji Xiaolua was beaten back again and again. He had no strength to fight back, and his injuries became more and more serious. After the two of them exchanged 200 blows, Ji Xiaolua's body was already distorted and on the verge of collapse. He collapsed weakly in the ruins, twitching violently. His body was covered in black demonic fog. Ji Tianqing descended from the sky. He held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and slashed down fiercely. Ji Xiaolua was about to be killed on the spot. At this critical moment, he did not dodge or counterattack. He was exceptionally calm. Chapter 1997. Heavenly Demon Jade Seed. Ji Tianqing was stunned. The sword of burial of heaven in his hands froze in midair. He looked at Ji Xiaolua with a gloomy expression. His eyes were as sharp as a sword, as if he wanted to see through him. Ji Xiaolua, did the ancestor Fiend Celestial impart the heavenly demon jade seed technique to you? Ji Xiaolua sneered and said proudly, not only me, every great demon saint has received the ancestor Fiend Celestial's impartation. Ha ha ha. I am not the patrol envoy of the Broken Sky Alliance. I am not as stupid and weak as him. You can kill him, but you can't kill me. Ji Tianqing was silent. He stared at Ji Xiaolua with a murderous look and frowned. 1,000 years ago, he had heard of the heavenly demon jade seed technique and had even come into contact with it. He had a certain understanding of this powerful demon Dao secret technique. This kind of secret technique had many effects, but the two most prominent effects were something that the other clan's secret techniques could not compare to. One was to steal the cultivation of others, and the other was to bring the dead back to life. The ancestor Fiend Celestial had planted the heavenly demon seed in the divine souls of the great demon saints, creating a mysterious connection between them. Those great demon saints had become the seeds cultivated by the ancestor Fiend Celestial. Once a great demon saint died, the ancestor Fiend Celestial would obtain part of his cultivation, greatly increasing his power. Or, when the ancestor Fiend Celestial needed it, he could use the secret technique to steal the cultivation of the great demon saints. Ji Tianqing had read in a book that in ancient times, there was a great demon king who had been stuck in the martial god realm. No matter how hard he cultivated, he could not break through to the true God realm and wasted more than 2,000 years. Later, the great demon king picked 99 talented geniuses and took them in as his disciples. He used the heavenly demon jade seed technique to plant the heavenly demon seed in the bodies of the 99 disciples. 1,000 years later, the 99 disciples had become talents. Most of them had reached the martial saint realm, and only a few of them had remained in the tribulation realm. Thus, the great demon king used a secret technique to steal the cultivation of the disciples. It succeeded as expected, breaking through to the true God realm very quickly. The 99 disciples were all drained of their power and cultivation, suffering heavy casualties. This was one of the effects of the heavenly demon jade seed technique. It was very strange and overbearing. In addition, since Ji Xiaolua had practiced the heavenly devil jade seed technique, he must have left a spiritual soul seed in his lair in the North Underworld mountain. Even if it was accidentally killed by a strong enemy while fighting outside, the soul seed it had left in the North Underworld mountain would be awakened immediately. It would heal its wounds and recover its strength quickly. Soon, it would be reborn again. This was equivalent to Ji Xiaolua having an extra life. It was precisely because of this that Ji Xiaolua was fearless. As long as Ji Tianqing dared to kill it, it could come back to life. Furthermore, the ancestor demonic god would also obtain a portion of his cultivation, allowing his power to rapidly increase. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing was a little hesitant. His face was gloomy as he pondered. To kill or not to kill, this was a problem. Ji Xiaolua crawled up from the ground and silently circulated his power to suppress his injuries. He looked up at Ji Tianqing and sneered, "Ji Tianqing, I believe you are very clear about the effects and power of the heavenly devil jade seed technique. Killing them all will not do you any good. If you are smart enough, you will know what to do." Ji Xiaolua's tone revealed that he had a card up his sleeve. Ji Tianqing furrowed his brows and stared at him coldly. He shouted in a low voice, "Ji Xiaolua, it is too early for you to be happy. Even if you have practiced the heavenly devil jade seed technique, I will still kill you. Not only you, I will also kill all the devil saints and cut off the ancestor demonic god's wings before killing it." After saying this, Ji Tianqing held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and slashed down with all his strength. Heaven-splitting sword. Vast and mighty mana gushed out from the sword of burial of heaven and formed a giant golden sword 100 feet long. The golden sword fell from the sky. Ji Xiaolua was unable to dodge and was immediately drowned by the golden light. Kaboom! A thunderous explosion resounded through the sky. The wasteland within a radius of dozens of miles was shaken by the giant sword's bombardment. A huge gully was cut in the ground and countless cracks appeared in the surroundings. Endless dust and gravel floated in the air, covering the sky and the sun. Ji Xiaolua's body was cut in half by the sword light on the spot. It shattered into countless pieces and scattered among the ruins. A dark purple ball of light flew out from the pieces of flesh. That was Ji Xiaolua's soul, which had already been severely injured. Bang! The dark purple ball of light exploded and turned into a sky full of purple flames, illuminating the wasteland. The dazzling purple soul fire only lasted for a few breaths before it quickly dissipated. The wasteland gradually regained its tranquility and the dust in the sky slowly settled down. Everything was over. Ji Xiaolua had been killed by Ji Tianqing, but he was not truly dead. The ancestor demon god would obtain part of his cultivation and the spiritual seed that he had left in North Underworld Mountain would be reborn soon. Ji Tianqing knew that this would be the result, but he did not regret it. At least, Ji Xiaolua's spiritual seed would not be reborn in a short period of time. In the next 10 years, it would not be able to recover to the martial sage realm and would not be able to cause trouble again. When the wasteland regained its tranquility, Ji Tianqing's figure appeared. He flew back to the middle of the wasteland and landed on the Golden Crow ancient tomb. Staring at the ancient tomb beneath his feet, he muttered to himself, back then, Yang Tian obtained half of the sun-devouring divine skill from the ancient tomb and devoured the power of millions of sea beasts. It's a pity that he only obtained half of the divine skill. If he had cultivated the complete divine skill, he might have successfully broken through to the martial god realm. The other half of the divine skill is most likely still in this ancient tomb. Previously, he had sensed that there was a powerful divine power in the depths of the ancient tomb that seemed to be protecting and sealing something. He guessed that the other half of the sun-devouring divine skill was most likely hidden in that divine power. However, his strength was not enough to break through that divine power. He could only wait until he was strong enough to explore the mysteries of the ancient tomb. Then, he activated the array in the ancient tomb and opened the passage to the next level. Swoosh! With a flash of light, he left the third level and entered the fourth level of the divine pagoda. Around him was the vast divine sea. The surface of the sea was blue, calm and still. Ji Tianqing flew across the surface of the sea at lightning speed and rushed to the eye of the sea in the depths of the divine sea. Half a day later, he passed through the eye of the sea and returned to the fifth level of the divine pagoda. The spacious and bright hall was as calm and cold as ever. On the large altar, 18 demon god statues stood quietly, surrounding the origin divine array. Ji Tianqing flew to the top of the altar and sat in the middle of the origin divine array. He began to cultivate. The continuous battles had caused him serious injuries and consumed a lot of his magic power. He had to rest for an entire day to recover to his peak condition. Chapter 1998. Ji Tianqing had used the divine blood control spirit art to establish a connection with the origin divine formation. He could communicate with the divine formation and use the origin divine gate to enter the first 4 floors of the divine pagoda. But he had yet to fully grasp the origin divine formation, so he couldn't control the target and accurately enter a floor. Thus, he continued to communicate with the origin divine formation and focused on unraveling its secrets. The hall was quiet as time quietly passed. 5 days passed without him noticing. Ji Tianqing gradually used the divine blood control spirit art to strengthen his connection with the origin divine formation. At the same time, his control over the origin divine formation had also improved to a more precise level. He had already accurately found the path to the first 4 floors from the many passages of the origin divine gate. As long as he activated the formation, he could accurately reach the first 4 floors of the divine pagoda. This was already an enormous improvement. But he still felt that he was missing something. There were even deeper secrets within the origin divine formation that were waiting for him to unearth. Thus, he continued to probe the secrets of the origin divine formation. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, another 10 days passed. Ji Tianqing's spiritual sense had already entered the depths of the origin divine formation and probed the secrets of the core region of the formation. To his surprise, he discovered a ball of divine golden light in the depths of the formation. Within this golden light was a golden pagoda the size of a fist. This small golden pagoda was extremely intricate and lifelike, so exquisite that it was breathtaking. Upon closer inspection, Ji Tianqing discovered that this small pagoda was identical to the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda, without the slightest difference. This discovery jolted him to his senses and filled him with anticipation. Just like the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda, this exquisite small pagoda is hidden in the depths of the origin divine formation. Could this small pagoda be the core that controls the divine pagoda, the key to opening the divine pagoda? As this thought flashed through Ji Tianqing's mind, he impatiently sent out his spiritual sense to communicate with the small pagoda. The small golden pagoda was divine and dignified, exuding boundless divine might. Ji Tianqing's spiritual sense found it difficult to approach, and only after many attempts did he manage to make contact with it. He was not in a hurry, and patiently communicated with small pagoda, using his divine sense to nurture it. Half a month later, small tower finally accepted his divine sense and allowed him to enter. The first step of refining the small pagoda was a success. Ji Tianqing was in high spirits. He continued to control his divine sense and focused on refining the small tower. He was immersed in casting the spell and completely forgot about the passage of time. Soon, another month had passed. He had finally succeeded in refining the golden pagoda. Buzz! His divine sense fused with small pagoda, and small pagoda immediately released an even more resplendent golden light. The next moment, the small golden pagoda flew out from the depths of the formation under the guidance of his divine sense. Shwa! The golden pagoda flew out of the origin divine formation and landed in his palm. He looked down and saw a small golden pagoda that was 3 inches tall floating above his palm, flashing with a brilliant golden light. A sacred and mighty aura was released from the small pagoda. Ji Tianqing loved it so much that he couldn't put it down. He held the small golden pagoda and observed it for a long time before putting it away. Small pagoda drilled into his palm, entered his head, and finally landed in his sea of consciousness. In his sea of consciousness, a blazing white heaven-mending orb floated above. It was like a full moon, sacred and dignified. The small golden pagoda floated below the heaven-mending orb, quietly sleeping. The two coexisted peacefully without any conflict. They could both provide Ji Tianqing with powerful strength. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing was relieved. He circulated his energy for 2 days and recovered to his peak state. Then, he prepared to leave the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda. Thus, he took out the small golden pagoda and used his divine sense to communicate with it. Shwa! Small pagoda released a resplendent golden light that condensed into a door of light in front of him. He stepped into the door of light and immediately disappeared. The next moment, he appeared on the summit of a 2,000-foot-tall mountain. It was late at night. In the gloomy night sky, a crescent moon was hanging, and there were sparse stars. Beneath his feet was a ruined ground, and around him was a messy forest. A cold wind blew across the mountain peak, sweeping up the sand on the ground. Ji Tianqing looked around and realized that he had left the Yin-Yang secret realm. The mountain peak beneath his feet was the entrance to the Yin-Yang secret realm. There was originally a golden and blue door of light on the mountain peak, which was protected by a large array set up by the Broken Sky Alliance. But now, the dual-colored door of light and the defensive array were long gone. Ji Tianqing released his divine sense and scanned the surrounding 500 miles. However, it was quiet within 500 miles, and there was no aura of martial artists. Strange. When I came here before, there were more than 20 martial artists gathered here. It's only been 2 months, why is everyone gone? Ji Tianqing murmured to himself, feeling a little puzzled. However, he guessed the reason after thinking for a while. The Broken Sky Alliance occupied the entrance to the secret realm, and the other forces were not qualified to fight for it. Later, Ji Xiaolua and the demon race experts arrived and killed all the Broken Sky Alliance's experts, intimidating the other forces' experts. Those experts could have fantasies about the Heaven-Shattering Alliance because the Heaven-Shattering Alliance was a human force, so they still had some feelings and humanity. However, the demon race of the North Underworld Mountain was scarier than any other race. Who dared to fantasize about the demon race, unless they were tired of living? In addition, the door of light at the entrance to the secret realm had disappeared. Even if the other forces had the guts to fight with the Broken Sky Alliance and the demon race, they would not be able to enter the secret realm. Just as Ji Tianqing was thinking, a purple light flew from the night sky and landed in his hand. Whoosh! After the purple light disappeared, it was a communication jade slip the size of a finger. Ji Tianqing immediately knew that it was a message from Ji Ku. Thus, he released his divine sense and read the message in the jade slip. Ji Ku's clear and melodious voice immediately sounded in his mind. Big Brother Tianqing, we have been hiding nearby for 2 months, and Ji Xiaolua has not returned. Did you fight with Ji Xiaolua in the secret realm? Are you injured? Is Ji Xiaolua still alive? If Ji Xiaolua is dead, hurry over here as soon as possible. I am near the Two Divergent Mountain, and there are more than 30 demon elites here, you can catch them all in one fell swoop. The message in the jade slip was not much, but it was very important. After Ji Tianqing heard it, he frowned and pondered for a moment before sending a message back to Ji Ku. Kuku, Ji Xiaolua and the demon race experts under him were all killed by me. However, the ancestral fiend god taught Ji Xiaolua a secret technique called the Great Heavenly Demon Seed Jade Technique, which can bring him back to life. Ji Xiaolua left a soul seed in the North Underworld Mountain, and he should be able to return to his peak in 10 years. As for the Two Divergent Mountain, I will not go there. I can't kill those 30 or so demon clan elites, so I can only spare their lives. Chapter 1999. After sending a message to Ji Ku, Ji Tianqing waited for half an hour. Then, Ji Ku sent him a message. When Ji Ku learned that Ji Xiaolua had been killed and all the demon experts had died, he was very excited. As for the demon elites of Dual Qi Mountain, they could only count themselves lucky and managed to keep their lives. She was going to follow the demon elites back to the North Underworld Mountain. She would only contact Ji Tianqing if there was any situation or major event in the future. After Ji Tianqing finished reading the message in the jade slip, he silently put it away and didn't reply to the message. He sighed with mixed feelings and turned around to leave. He flew across the sky like a shooting star and headed south. The matter of the Jiutian 10 Absolutes Pagoda had come to an end. When he was strong enough, he would come back to explore the secrets of the Divine Pagoda. After all, he had the secret key to the Divine Pagoda and could enter and exit the Divine Pagoda at any time. Other than him, no one else could enter the Divine Pagoda, not even martial saints. After all, the entrance to the Yin-Yang realm had disappeared. Ji Tianqing crossed the Fallen Blood Lake and was flying over the mountains. Early in the morning, the sun had just risen. When he was flying over a vast mountain range, he suddenly stopped. Swoosh! He landed on the peak of a 1,000-foot-tall mountain and stood on a millstone-sized rock on the mountain peak. Damn it, I actually forgot about this. He looked up at the sky and muttered with a strange expression. In the originally clear sky, there was suddenly a gust of wind. Endless gray clouds gathered from all directions and gathered in the sky above the mountain. In just 100 breaths of time, the gray clouds turned into pitch-black tribulation clouds. They rolled rapidly and were about to condense into a vortex. The world was dark and the air was filled with an extremely oppressive aura. Within 100 miles, all the birds and beasts living in the forest were scared out of their wits and fled into the distance. Without a doubt, Ji Tianqing's heavenly tribulation was about to descend. He looked up at the tribulation clouds with a calm expression and said in a playful tone, "I've long reached the 8th stage of the tribulation transcendence realm. Previously, I stayed in the 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda and never sensed the heavenly tribulation." Now that he had just left the divine pagoda, less than 24 hours later, the heavenly tribulation arrived as promised. It seems that I can't avoid even one of the heavenly tribulations that I have to face. The burial of heaven's voice rang out in his mind. Its tone was solemn as it said, "As long as it is a world covered by the heavenly Tao, no matter where it is in the universe, it must follow the heavenly Tao's rules. The facts have proven that your guess was correct. The 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda can indeed cut off the will of the heavenly Tao and isolate the senses of the heavenly tribulation." Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Only a top king-grade divine artifact can achieve such an effect. It's just like the backup plan I left behind all those years ago. Only by exhausting all my divine power and might could I disrupt the heavenly secrets and leave behind memories of my soul during the heavenly tribulation." Just as he was discussing with the burial of heaven, the vortex of tribulation clouds high in the sky had already formed. In the pitch-black vortex of tribulation clouds, there were colorful lightning arcs flashing, releasing a terrifying heavenly Tao's pressure that enveloped an area of 100 miles. Ji Tianqing endured the heavenly Tao's pressure, but he could still maintain his calm and his body was still upright. Not long after, the heavenly tribulation arrived. Kaboom! Following the deafening sound of thunder, 6 lightning bolts struck down from the vortex of tribulation clouds. 6 lightning pillars that were hundreds of feet long, carrying a divine power that could destroy everything, fell from the sky and struck down at Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was fearless. With his left hand behind his back, he waved his right hand and struck out with a golden light that filled the sky, forming a huge vortex. The vortex that was thousands of feet in radius blocked above his head, releasing an incomparably powerful suction force. Bam bam bam. A series of muffled sounds burst out. The 6 lightning bolts blasted into the vortex and were quickly swallowed up. The first lightning bolt was easily neutralized by Ji Tianqing just like that. Next, the second lightning bolt came one after another. This time, 12 lightning pillars blasted down from the vortex of tribulation clouds. The power was more than 3 times stronger than before. Boom, 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 boom. Another earth-shattering sound burst out, resounding through the universe. Ji Tianqing struck out with a golden light again, forming a vortex and swallowing the 12 lightning bolts. The third lightning bolt had reached 24 bolts, and its power was even more terrifying. However, the result was still the same. Ji Tianqing still swallowed all the lightning bolts. After the third lightning bolt, the vortex of tribulation clouds changed. Not long after, the vortex of tribulation clouds changed, and even more powerful lightning bolts descended. When the fourth lightning bolt descended, a total of 48 5-colored lightning pillars were arranged into a divine formation of heaven and earth, ruthlessly bombarding Ji Tianqing. Each lightning pillar contained the power of 5 types of divine lightning, and its power was immeasurable. The 48 lightning pillars were arranged in a divine formation, containing supreme divine power that could destroy heaven and earth. Ji Tianqing calmly dealt with it. Holding the sword of burial of heaven, he instantly stabbed out 49 sword lights to meet the lightning bolts in the sky. Bang, 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 bang. A series of loud noises, like firecrackers, resounded through the clouds. The 48 lightning pillars were all destroyed by the sword lights, turning into billions of lightning arcs that scattered between heaven and earth. Ji Tianqing was not injured at all. The 1,000-foot-tall mountain under his feet and the surrounding mountains were smashed into pieces by the lightning bolts, collapsing into charred ruins. The violent shock waves wreaked havoc, blowing up sand and dust that filled the sky for hundreds of miles. The 5th and 6th lightning bolts that followed doubled in number, reaching 96 and 192 bolts, and their power was also extremely terrifying. This was definitely an unprecedented heavenly tribulation. If it was any other expert that witnessed this scene with their own eyes, they would be shocked to the point of being absent-minded and terrified to the extreme. Even a martial sage expert would not dare to withstand such a terrifying heavenly tribulation, and be killed by 192 bolts of lightning. The only outcome would be death and disintegration. However, Ji Tianqing did it, continuously creating miracles. With his strong body and marvelous sword techniques, he destroyed the lightning bolts that filled the sky and blocked the power of the lightning bolts. After the 6th lightning bolt, the tribulation cloud vortex changed again, turning into a blood-red color. The 7th lightning bolt was still the inner demon tribulation. Ji Tianqing looked up at the sky, watching the blood-red lightning bolt from the dark red tribulation cloud. He did not dodge, calmly accepting the attack of the blood-red lightning bolt. Soon, he was enveloped by a huge ball of blood-red light, entering the illusion of the inner demon tribulation. He had already gone through several inner demon tribulations, and had sufficient experience. Although the inner demon tribulation this time was as dangerous as before, he successfully resolved it. As for the eighth tribulation of wind and fire, it was not a problem for him. The heavenly wind fire and the mysterious black fire that burned his body were also used by him to temper his body. Finally, the last lightning bolt descended. A very strange lightning bolt struck down from the tribulation cloud vortex that was hundreds of miles wide. Chapter 2000. Ji Tianqing was knowledgeable and knowledgeable. He had seen gold, purple, blue, red, and black lightning. Only the white lightning was something he had never seen before. However, the lightning pillar contained both black and white, which immediately made him understand the power of yin and yang. This is the yin-yang tribulation. As expected, the lightning pillar that was hundreds of meters long immediately turned into a ball of black and white light after hitting Ji Tianqing. The black and white light within a radius of 5 kilometers turned into a huge disk that drowned Ji Tianqing's figure. The appearance of this disk was rather mysterious and contained the profundity of the Great Tao. The disk was half black and half white, and it was formed by a black and white yin-yang fish with their heads and tails intertwined. It was the Taiji diagram that represented yin and yang. Ji Tianqing was in the black and white formation. He had already entered another space and was undergoing a test. This was an alternate space with a radius of 50 kilometers. It was filled with black and white, and it looked extremely simple. However, there was no spiritual energy in the entire space, only the endless power of yin and yang. Ji Tianqing stood in midair and endured a powerful suppressive force. The power of yin and yang formed invisible blades that constantly strangled him. The attribute of the power was unpredictable. Sometimes it was as hot as the sun, and sometimes it was as cold as ice. No matter how strong his physical defense was, he had to resist with all his strength to protect himself. In the blink of an eye, an hour passed. Ji Tianqing stood in the black and white torrent, circulating his energy to resist the impact of the power of yin and yang. He had no time to care about anything else. He had consumed a lot of his magic power, and his mind was somewhat tired. However, the black and white torrent was endless and never stopped. Its power did not weaken at all. Ji Tianqing knew that he could not continue like this. When his power was exhausted, the power of yin and yang would multiply endlessly. If he did not find a way to resolve this yin-yang tribulation and leave this black and white space, he would definitely be trapped here until he died. Therefore, he flew forward with all his might, trying to find the end of the black and white space. However, he soon discovered that after passing through the black light area, he would enter the white light area. After passing through the white light area, he would enter the black light area. Even if he flew for tens of thousands of miles, he still couldn't find the end. It seems that only by grasping the power of yin and yang can I leave this space and resolve this calamity. Ji Tianqing murmured in a low voice. Then, he sat cross-legged in the black and white space and began to cast a spell. He did not release his magic power to form a shield to protect himself. His entire body was dim, and his expression was calm as usual. It was as if he was calmly enduring the power of yin and yang. More than 1,000 years ago, when he had broken through to the martial sage realm, he had already seen through yin and yang and mastered the power of yin and yang. He had a deep understanding of the Tao of yin and yang. What is yin and yang? The sun was yang, and the moon was yin. The male is yang, while the female is yin. Life is yang, death is yin, right is yang, reverse is yin, fire is yang, water is yin. There were too many things like this to count. In short, everything in the world has two sides, good and evil, good and bad, positive and negative. As the saying goes, when things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. Yin and yang generally referred to two opposing but interrelated forces. The two complemented each other, promoting and restraining each other, but they could reach a level of endless growth. This was similar to the generation and restraint of the five elements. Of course, the Tao of Yin and Yang was called the Tao. First, there was the Tao of Yin and Yang, then there was the Tao of the five elements. Ji Tianqing's understanding of the world's origin and the universe had reached an extremely deep level. He quickly entered a state of cultivation and immersed himself in the power of Yin and Yang. His entire body was wrapped in black and white brilliance. If the black and white brilliance was a torrent, then he was a fish swimming freely in the torrent, unrestrained and free. He understood the principles of Yin and Yang and mastered the Tao of Yin and Yang. How could the black and white brilliance hurt him? Time passed silently. Ji Tianqing was immersed in cultivation. After 3 days, he had completely mastered the Tao of Yin and Yang and could control the mysterious power of Yin and Yang. Then, he began to resolve the yin-yang tribulation. He stood in the black and white torrent and stretched out his left and right palms. He made a mysterious hand seal and formed a series of hand seals. Suddenly, the black and white brilliance around him separated. The black and white separated and became distinct, gradually forming a special pattern. The process was very slow, but Ji Tianqing was very patient, as if he did not know fatigue. An entire day passed. In the space within 100 miles, the black and white brilliance had completely separated. A Tai Chi diagram formed by the yin-yang fish was finally formed. This undoubtedly meant that Ji Tianqing had truly mastered the Tao of Yin and Yang. Swoosh! After the yin-yang diagram was formed, it immediately spun faster. Then, the diagram quickly shrank and turned into a black and white pillar of light that surged into Ji Tianqing's body. That was the majestic power of Yin and Yang. It was all injected into his body to increase his strength. Ji Tianqing closed his eyes and calmly accepted the gift of the heavenly Tao. This was his reward for resolving the yin-yang tribulation. After 2 hours, the endless power of Yin and Yang was completely devoured by him. Swoosh! A light flashed before his eyes, and he returned to the sky. Beneath his feet was a ruin with a radius of 100 miles, surrounded by vast mountains. Above his head was the huge tribulation cloud vortex, and it was still gradually dissipating. Ji Tianqing had finally transcended the 6th tribulation. After the tribulation cloud vortex dissipated, it turned into a wisp of sacred golden light and surged into Ji Tianqing's body. This was the reward bestowed by the heavenly Tao after successfully transcending the tribulation. Ji Tianqing bathed in the sacred golden light, and his soul and body were baptized and strengthened. His strength was also rapidly increasing. After transcending this tribulation, his strength had increased by 4 times, and his combat strength was even more powerful. Fortunately, this is the ruins of God, and there's no one within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. No one should have seen me transcending the tribulation here, right? Ji Tianqing looked around and saw that there was nothing unusual around him, so he turned around and flew away. He continued to fly south, preparing to return to Heavenly Pillar Mountain. However, something that made him very embarrassed happened. He had just transcended the 6th tribulation when he sensed something in his mind again. The will of the heavenly Tao descended. His 7th tribulation would descend this evening. Ji Tianqing did not know whether to laugh or cry at this result. I've just transcended the tribulation, and it's coming again? Transcending the tribulation twice in a row? Is there such a thing in this world? I should have transcended the 3rd tribulation, but the heavenly Tao's detection was blocked by the 9 heavens 10 absolutes tower. Now that I've left the tower, the tribulation is coming all at once. If it were anyone else, they would definitely die and turn into ashes under the tribulation. He muttered in his heart, but he was not worried and continued to travel high in the sky. A few hours later, it was evening. At this moment, Ji Tianqing was speeding high in the sky, flying over a vast mountain range. Sensing that the tribulation was coming, he hurriedly stopped above a large lake and prepared to transcend the tribulation. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.